All right, so this third clip is called Adam and Eve and the Bad Trip. It was one of my favorite realizations to have on the podcast, and so I would like to hear what you guys think.
I think when you take DMT and mushrooms, it actually opens up a dimension for your consciousness to travel from your dimension of mind to another dimension. Kind of like, Alice, right? When she ate. Ooh, gosh, there's a lot happening right now. Okay, so think about the story of Adam and Eve. They ate the fruit. Could it be them consuming the fruit? It's what took them out of the dimension of Eden and brought them into this world. It took their consciousness out of a mind that was in Eden and actually caused like an opposite reaction that, like, say, a mushroom would cause you to kind of shift to a state. Remember I said, like, the reason why I stopped taking mushrooms is because it was keeping me in the state of, like, everything's okay, like in the state of, like, almost like paradise in a way. Because it wasn't that the biblical God, not saying I believe the story, it's just I like the analogy. It wasn't that the biblical God was saying, like, don't eat anything. He just said, this specific tree, leave it alone. So if they were surrounded by, like, psychedelics, it helped keep their consciousness in a state of mind that was, like, chill. Like, so they were unlocking the experience of a paradise. But then once they ate of the fruit, it actually changed their brains. It changed the channel of their mind. It shifted their consciousness into a different dimension where now they couldn't exist in paradise without seeing problems everywhere, which is what the internal monologue does. So is the internal monologue, could you make the argument that the internal monologue is actually brought on by consuming an icon, right, of food that shifted the mind into a different reality experience, or you're still in the same state, but now all you can do is suffer? That's deep. Because if you go back to the story, they were still in Eden before they were cast out. But even in paradise, all they could see was what was wrong with them. So they started judging. Remember I said I interacted with an individual where I tried to help, but all they could see was what was wrong with what I was doing? They had eaten the fruit. If this was a story, they had eaten the fruit. Because all they could see was what was wrong. So Adam and Eve looked at each other, and instead of saying, like, you look beautiful, what did they do? They started shaming themselves. They started shaming each other. And so then when the Elohim came and saw that they had, like, clothed themselves, they realized that Adam and Eve had eaten from the fruit. Just like you ever run into a person and you know when they're high? You can tell that they're high. You can tell what kind of drugs they're on too, right? If you run into somebody that does a lot of mushrooms, right? You can tell their vibe's different than somebody who does, like, a lot of weed, right? Who smokes a lot of weed. Their vibe's different than, like, somebody who, I don't know, does a lot of coke, right? Like, they're different. Their experiences, they're all on the same earth, and they could all be in the same party, but because of the icon that they took into their mind, they're accessing different dimensions. So you can tell. So I'm thinking the Elohim, or their God, when they came back and met Adam and Eve, saw that they were basically, like, they were tripping. Like, they were like, I'm naked. Oh my gosh, my titties are out. Let's, like, cover this up. This is not a good look, right? They started judging themselves. And that's how they knew, that's how the gods knew that Adam and Eve had, like, eaten whatever this fruit was. And they were high off of it because it was, like, making them trip. They're, like, on, like, crack or something like that, or, like, meth or something. Maybe the apple was, like, some sort of, like, plant that gives you a bad trip, right? And all you could see was what was wrong.